Okay, so today we're going to be hearing the case of Cuz Peterson versus the LSPD and BCSO. Mr. Shieldbreaker, if you would like to hit with your opening statement.
Yes, Your Honor. We're gathered here today because my client was wrongfully tased off of his bike and then handcuffed and then left to fend for himself without being able to move in the middle of a shootout against locals. It is appalling that we would allow for such a situation to happen, as he could have been severely injured or even killed today.
Okay, Mr. Shieldbreaker, and what are you suing for and what are you looking for?
We are looking for uh we're looking for 400,000, Your Honor.
Under what grounds? Under what grounds, Mr. Shieldbreaker?
Sorry, my brain is blah. Anyway, it's gonna be $400,000 for reimbursement of medical fees, and the trauma of the situation.
Gotcha. Mr. Jefferson, do you have an opening statement?
As I do believe there are things that we could have proved on Mr. Peterson's situation back on December 3rd of 2021. I do not believe that amount should accumulate to 400,000. And I believe that as Mr. Peterson should be entitled to some things, it shouldn't be to that substantial amount of money. And we're gonna prove that here today.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Shieldbreaker, if you would like to present your evidence.
Yes, Sean, it would be the video in question that I did send you.
Mm-hmm. I have indeed reviewed it. Jefferson, have you had a chance to review the video?
I did review it, yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you, Mr. Shieldbreaker, do you have any other evidence other than that to present?
Real quick, Your Honor, I'd also like a motion for dismissal on behalf of they said in Mr. Mr. Shieldbreaker's opening statements that he said that the amount of $400,000 for trauma and for medical bills is what he included on his opening statement. I'd like a motion for dismissal on the trauma, and I'd also like a motion for dismissal on the medical records, as I haven't been presented for either, I haven't been provided receipts or any medical documentation that he needed that, or he even went to therapy, or he even saw a doctor on the day or the days after. I wasn't provided with any of that information unless you were provided.
Technically, that's not a requirement.
Then how much is the medical bills?
Technically, that would not need to be disclosed unless it's in a closed hearing to the judge, since they are protected.
Yeah, medical records can't be made viewable to the public.
So how much? So he's suing for 400,000 for what? Endangerment to life, for the trauma, and for medical records, correct?
Endangerment of life, trauma, and police brutality.
Okay. So in regards to the trauma, is there any form of proof or evidence that he received any form of therapy? I mean, if you're suing for 400,000, I'm assuming you'd have to provide that you did go through some form of trauma, instead of you just saying, I went through trauma. I don't feel like that should be held up or admissible by any means.
Is this a pre-trial motion?
I'm still dealing with this trauma. Yeah, man.
Part of
What
the
are you
opening
talking about?
This is a pre-trial. I don't fucking know. I think
I don't
pre-trial motion.
think he had that in his opening statement at all either.
Currently, the trial is in motion as it is, so we can only do pre-trial motions before trial.
Sorry. So am I able to make a motion for dismissal or no?
That motion is going to be denied. However, if you would like to argue about why the trauma should be not admissible on the statement, then sure.
there's no evidence that Mr. Peterson has gone through any trauma.
Mr. Shieldbreaker, do you have any rebuttals to his remarks?
I mean, I think the video is more than enough.
Yes, Your Honor. Clearly, anyone who was left in that type of situation wouldn't, especially not being an officer who's used to such a thing.
Objection,
even officers.
assumption.
Bro, I almost got shot with a bullet to my face because I couldn't move my legs.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a notion that he said he was almost shot, which means he didn't receive any bullet wounds, which means I don't believe he was injured at that time.
To the face, bro. If I got caught a bullet to my
His
face, I
injury
wouldn't be talking
would
here.
have also been from taser rounds and being dropped on his bike, then handcuffed immediately.
So what was the injuries exactly?
He would have also received some stray bullet wounds from locals.
So do we have any proof of that?
We have video evidence
That he was
including-
struck with a round?
You would be able to see it in the video.
Review that real quick.
And if you give me a timestamp, I can also review it afterwards.
Because you can also see the officer being struck as well before he fled the scene.
Everyone has been checked at the front door, correct?
Yeah, from what I reviewed, there's no footage whatsoever of Mr. Peterson being struck by a round, by any form of ballistics.
Jibs.
Unless yourself, Mr. Shieldbreaker, can confirm that he was indeed shot, I cannot see any instance of it with the footage provided.
Your Honor, right around, I want to say a minute and 10 seconds to a minute and 12 seconds, you would see a round that was hitting the officer. That round would have penetrated and hit Mr. Peterson as well.
God damn, that mullet is sexy.
Yeah, from the footage I saw, Your Honor, there no bullet ever struck Mr. Peterson.
It's referencing the bullet striking the officer and the potential for it to pierce through the officer and strike Mr. Peterson.
I don't believe it did.
Objection, speculation.
Objection.
No.
Do we have any proof from a medical diagnosis and/or any form of hard evidence that he was struck by that round?
He was taken directly to MRPD without any medical evidence, and then
Bro, I still hear
charged.
ringing from my ears.
So then how are you suing for medical damages if he didn't go to the hospital?
Because I went after I got out of prison, bro.
He was sent directly to MRPD without being treated for medical damages.
To my knowledge, we would have been able to see if he was oozing blood, and so I'm assuming that we did not see that, and that's why he was not transported to pillbox, because he wasn't struck with a bullet. We would have clearly been able to see if he was bleeding from a gunshot wound.
So you clearly think that you would have treated them, but also that officer didn't do anything to save him from the gunshot.
No, what I'm saying is that there is no evidence to support that Mr. Peterson was shot, and until you can prove that,
Once
I think
again,
that
I give
we
the
should
evidence
ignore
and you
all
have
of that.
to disprove it.
Okay, I'm looking at the footage, and he wasn't shot.
Like I said, that bullet would have pierced through that officer and struck Mr. Peterson.
Assumption. Objection. How would you even make that? A plate couldn't have stopped it. It could have been stopped inside of the officer's body.
It
bullet
went
could
through
have.
the shoulder. I can see it there.
I'm looking at the footage, and Mr. Peterson was not struck. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, I'm going to grant it as assumption and the opposite one of speculation Two of the objections that were made are both granted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Continue.
I believe you were speaking, Mr. Shieldbreaker.
Ah. I have nothing further regarding that evidence.
Gotcha. Do you well,
My apologies. Go ahead.
do you have any witnesses to call to the stand or anyone you would like to call for questioning?
Currently, no, is the current doctor that would have been assisting it, Dr. Strug. I haven't seen him in the city today.
Gotcha. And what about you, Mr. Jefferson? Do you have anyone on your behalf to call to the stand?
No, Your Honor. No witnesses.
Okay. So has everything that you guys wanted to present been presented?
I
did
have no
also-
evidence on my end, so there's nothing I can present further.
I did present to you the sign saying that there is camera footage there too, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yes, that's it's currently all I have.
Okay. Mr. Shieldbreaker, do you have a closing statement?
No, Your Honor, I think I'm gonna pass on that one.
Mr. Jefferson?
A little more than a closing statement. Did we already discuss the trauma section of this civil matter by chance? And are we finding that we're making it admissible that they're going to be bringing trauma on,
Are
suing us
you,
for trauma?
Are you asking for more questions?
I'm asking for proof that he's gone through trauma. You're bringing this case. You're suing us. I'd like you to prove that he has gone through trauma, and in any way, please. Preferably a professional medical diagnosis, if at all possible, instead of him just saying that he has trauma. In that case, I could sue anybody for anything at that point if I felt I had trauma. If we don't need to prove that.
If I can interject on that, Judge.
Go ahead.
So, when it comes, sorry, I'll speak up so everyone can hear. When it comes to questioning the merits of the foundational merits of a lawsuit, in this case, he's suing for endangerment of life, trauma, and police brutality. When it comes to questioning the actual merits of the suit itself, that is typically something that is questioned pre-trial.
Thank God this is atypical.
And then also, then when it comes to if the merits of the actual foundational merits of the suit are not questioned pre-trial, then what is typically argued in trial is proving them back and forth. The methods and manners of that is typically with via presenting either supporting or countering evidence to that, or questioning the viability of the evidence being provided. As it is, I don't want to say it's the wrong form to take, but it is a bit unorthodox to, I want to say, directly demand the plaintiff to prove such a manner. It is on you to more so question the evidence that they're presenting, because it's basically
I'm questioning that there's no evidence for trauma.
Which is duly noted, is what I mean. But I mean, the it's obviously not going to be dismissed, and we are taking into account the evidence that is provided and lack thereof.
And then I'm also going to question the police brutality as well. The evidence in regards to the police brutality.
Once again, he was tased off of his bike. His bike would have
There
been
was no
would
sirens,
have landed.
by the way. Can we take notice to no sirens?
Objection, hearsay. Wouldn't have been able to pick up audio. They're outdoor cameras, as we discussed yesterday in court.
You can see lights.
Yeah, there were.
Yeah,
no
but you
lights.
can't see sirens.
Lights and sirens.
But you can't see sirens.
Well, there was no lights either.
Unless you
Pretty
got real
sure
good eyesight.
So you
pretty
just run
sure
around with
you're,
sirens and no lights on? Can you answer that for me?
Go ahead.
Sirens and no
Sorry.
lights on? Do you walk around with sirens and no lights on?
Could.
Why? That's, people. If people hear sirens, they're gonna pull over, bro.
It's
Think about
okay, cuz it's okay.
Again, I'd like to also have them, if they could, provide the evidence in regards to police brutality.
Once again, as I was stating, your officer tased him directly off of a bike,
Correct.
which the bike would have landed on him as he was tased off.
Engine still
Then
on.
your officer grabbed him up and put him in handcuffs
Okay.
and then left.
So I'm not arguing the endangerment to life. What I'm arguing is police brutality. What I'm
He
saying
tased
is
him off of a bike.
I understand,
immediately.
which it could be absolute procedure.
Well,
Is
okay.
it procedure
this.
to tase
it
someone
proce-
off of
yeah.
a bike
You can
while they're just
absolutely.
sitting there?
Can we take notice to how he pulls up in the video?
We don't know if he was
and
just sitting.
jumps
We
out of
don't
the
know if
car
he
and
was
tases
just
him?
sitting there because we
Can you
can't
give your
confirm what was
SOPs
said
within
at that
10 seconds and
location,
tase someone?
given that the
It's okay.
cameras do not have audio.
It's okay, cuz, like I said,
Sorry, I'm getting a little bit heated here. I'm just gonna sit there,
I understand.
catch my breath. Ridiculous.
We're saying police brutality. In order for there to be police brutality, we have to see clear and 100% misconduct on part of the officer. For all we know, the officer could have asked him to get off the bike 4 or 5 times, and he could have been denying a lawful command at that point. We don't know because we don't have any form of audio, or I don't believe the audio should be upheld, given it's outdoor cameras and they don't come equipped with audio.
So let me ask you this then.
Go ahead.
Is it standard procedure of whenever someone doesn't listen to you for you to immediately whip out a weapon and fire it at them without warning?
Yeah, I believe that's a subjective question.
It's not. It's a direct question. Is it your SOP that whenever there's someone that does not listen to your command, you immediately whip out a weapon and shoot them with it?
If you could try and give someone a lawful command multiple times and they don't want to obey that lawful command, if you need to get them either out of a vehicle or off a motorcycle, you're more than able to use a taser. If that's your question, yes.
So my question is, are you able to aim that weapon
Yes.
and give them a warning with that, or are you supposed to whip it out?
You can give
and
them a
immediately
warning.
Fire?
Do you know?
So
Do you know for a fact if Mr. Cooper gave a warning?
Do you see any chance that he would have given a warning with his weapon out?
He could have said, if you don't get off the bike, I'm going to tase you.
How? In the moment he opened,
He was
It's
standing
okay.
there a good
Hopped out of his
45,
okay,
50
cuz.
seconds before a taser was ever even brandished. And he could have said it many, many times within 40 to 50 seconds.
So you saying I'm going to tase you warrants you pulling out a taser and immediately tasing someone?
He could have said it multiple times. I'd like you to prove that. I'd like you to prove that he didn't say it.
Once again, I ask a question. Is it your SOP for if you warn someone,
I've answered
you
this
still
question.
have to
I've
whip
answered
it
this
out and fire
question.
them?
I've answered this question.
He did answer the question. If you'd like to rephrase your question or reword it, you're more than welcome to.
Okay. Are you
No.
not able to give someone a chance by aiming their weapon at your weapon?
It's not
and
listed
telling them?
specifically in the SOP. No.
It is not.
No, it is not. It does not list specifically that there needs to be for example, if you're asking me if there's a very direct set of guidelines that need to go through in regards to, you have to verbally warn them without your taser in your hand, and then verbally warn them 3 times with the taser in the hand, and then verbally warn them 3 times pointing the taser. That's not listed specifically. No.
So what it sounds like to me is that officers can pretend like they warn someone and just fire at them.
If you'd like to perceive it that way, that it's up to you, but I don't believe that's what we're getting at here. If you want to make that jump, if you since you're suing on the basis of police brutality, if you can define that for your honor and for everyone present, please.
As it is your duty to
You're gonna do
protect
your job and
civilians
remove the
no matter
guy
what's
just standing
going on,
among the court.
not only did you just tase the gentleman off of a bike, snatch him up, and put him in handcuffs, but you also left him there to his death.
Can you define police brutality? If you'd like, I can do it.
Go ahead.
Okay, so it is the excessive and unwarranted use of force by law enforcement. Okay.
Understood.
Excessive that he did that to me.
So like I said previously, okay, if we need to get someone out of a vehicle or off of a bike, you are 100% allowed to implement a taser. You will only required by law to issue one lawful command before deploying your taser. If that one lawful command was issued, then you are free to use that taser. And I'm saying within 60 seconds, we won't know because I don't believe we're using the audio, given it's outdoor cameras. Are we using the audio, Your Honor?
After the case yesterday and the president said, no, we are not.
Okay. So I'm saying within 50 seconds to a minute, for 40 to 50 seconds, I'd have to rewatch the body cam. I'm sorry about not being very specific. That there could have been many, many times a lawful command was given to Mr. Peterson and that he had blatantly disregarded it. And in that point, yes, a taser is 100% allowed to be implemented.
So what you're saying is you have no other ways of getting someone off of a bike, like maybe just pulling them off.
You could have, but you could have also used a taser. We're allowed to go one up, basically, is escalation of force. So
what you're saying is it's okay to tase an unarmed civilian on a bike, knowing that that bike will fall over and endanger their life.
For notion, Mr. Peterson was armed. In the police report given on the 3rd of December, Colt 1911 was taken off of Mr. Peterson.
Was the police report given to me?
No, it was not.
I motion to strike that.
So your motion is to strike what?
Any indication that he had a weapon, as well as the report was not given.
I believe MDW is a public record, so I believe that
MDW is not a public record.
Oh, it's not. Okay, then I apologize.
So yeah, I grant that strike.
Okay, then I'm also going to strike that him continuing referencing Mr. Peterson to be an unarmed, since there's no proof if he was or if he was not, and if it can't be proven, I don't want it to be spoken about in court.
As there's no sign of a weapon, regardless, on him at all, he would be considered unarmed.
I'll make note of what you mentioned, Mr. Jefferson, but I will not grant that strike.
Okay. Then
so it will be noted the point that you did just present.
Then what was the question again, Mr. Johnson? You asked, is it standard procedure for us to tase an unarmed civilian off of a motorcycle?
Correct.
Again, it's a subjective question. If he's flying down the highway at 120 miles an hour, usually wouldn't be able to issue a taser. If we ask him multiple times to get off a bike, we could probably issue a taser.
Sorry. I was lost there for a second.
I think, once again, I have no further questions, Your Honor. If he would have some more questions, he may ask.
I have a few questions about Mr. Peterson regarding his trauma given the event.
Yes.
Okay, hold up. So, is that fine with you, Mr. Shieldbreaker?
Are you asking to question my client directly?
I'm going to question him directly, yeah.
I would not like you to question my client, as he has a lot of emotional issues with police recently, considering he was left to be shot.
And do you have a witness subpoena or a subpoena to call Mr. Peterson to the stand, Mr. Jefferson?
No.
Okay. So I'm not going to allow you to question him directly.
Then I have a few questions, I suppose, just to bring into the heads of you, Your Honor, and the DA.
Go ahead.
This is going to be a very loose basis. I'm not going to use specific dates, or I'm not going to use specific situations. Okay. In regards to the trauma, Mr. Peterson is a known criminal, given his criminal record previous to the event, and given his criminal record.
I motion to strike that, as well as it's not been proven.
That will be striked as well, granted. Unfortunately, we do not have any of this presented to us or a precedent with Mr. Peterson as his whole demeanor or any records provided to us about previous history.
Okay, well then I would still like to reiterate the point. If the prosecution can elaborate on the trauma aspect of the civil lawsuit.
Once again, anything medical would have been sealed, and emotional trauma is still trauma.
Does he have problems going on with normal day-to-day things?
I'm pretty sure he is. He's he's went into his mind a couple times regarding just being near you. This is quite taxing on him. He wasn't sure if he'd be able to.
So does
That
does it
boy
affect
from a
his
mile
does
away.
does it affect his day-to-day? Does it affect his ability to go along with normal day-to-day life?
Yeah, he actually. I had to actually go to his apartment and wake him up, as he's had a lot of insomnia regarding it. So
But
he ended up
objection, Your
oversleeping.
Honor. There's no proof, evidence.
I would not recommend it.
Okay. So since we are currently reiterating other points, I'll grant that objection. These questioning seems to be getting repetitive and hitting in a loop. So I'm going to go to deliberation now and call a 5-minute recess.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Court is dismissed for 5 minutes for deliberation.